I think, what makes it, so satisfying and enjoyable, you know what I'm saying, to work with Coog would be, I think the comfort of it all, I think the trust, knowing that it's going to be, an enjoyable experience and I'm gonna get pushed, beyond my comfort zone. I mean, we're constantly always trying to grow, from project to project, throughout our lives and also throughout our professional career. So, the fact that, we get along so well, he's somebody that I've known for a really, really long time. When you're working with your friends, you never want to let them down for anything. He picks up the phone and calls and thinks about you for a certain, project, that's really, really personal to him, that means a lot to him, and he trusts you to deliver the message, to be that, be a part of that process. You take it seriously, and it means a lot. I work more often than him, just pure months in a year, turnaround from like acting and directing, so I'll put a couple movies up a year, at any given time. He lives with a project for like 2, because he writes what he directs, and there's the process that post and editing, all the way up to the movie comes out. So when he calls you, you pick up the phone. You know what I'm saying, and you really pay attention to what he's got to say and why he's, because he's very intentional. You know what I'm saying, and he means what he says. And he does what he says. You know what I'm saying. So when he hits you up, I kind of heard the pitch, and I was like, oh man, this is like different. And I was a little nervous at first, because for me, it's probably be the most adventurous role that I played thus far. The process is kind of like going from one character to the next. Like for me, it was a lot of music and catchphrases and things of that nature. A body position or a stance, that I worked through to kind of establish the 2 of them, and locking into that, day after day, you start to create your own rhythm and routine. Smoke wore his trauma differently. He kind of closed up a bit. So Smoke is, a man of few words, and that's what we kind of understood a lot amongst identical twins. Usually, twin brothers that are around each other a lot. One is more dominant in certain areas than the other. If you're always with your brother and your brother usually does most of the talking, you naturally don't talk that much because, your brother's taking care of most of that. So finding out those little details was a lot of fun and very informing on just the process. But, Smoke, had a heaviness to him that I kind of wore that took time to get off, and Stack was a lot lighter. He smiled through his pain, he smiled through his trauma. He talked his way through it, so he, had a lot more things to do and say and to deflect, to not sit still and let those feelings and those traumas kind of catch up to him. So Stack was always kind of like, he's always on the move, always kind of fleeing from things. So yeah, the process as a whole was just experimental, but and by halfway through it, it was a process and that we saw all the way to the end. Every day we left everything, on set, went home with nothing left to give daily, so we put everything into this after seeing the project and seeing how everything came together, because we're playing with a few different genres in this and tone, and it's a ride. It's definitely a ride. With Ludwig, our composer that's been our composer since Fruitville. He's known him since school, since film school, and I haven't been on any set where we filmed to the actual music that was gonna be in the movie, So the fact that I knew that this is a song that's gonna go on over here in this scene, this moment. Okay, when I'm doing X, Y, and Z, this is what we're gonna be listening to, and really being in the moment, I think that helped out tremendously, and I want people to feel that in their bones too, the musical element of it.
I always just think it's so incredibly special when you get to work on something with a group of people that are so deeply passionate about the work that is at hand. And beyond that, everybody's experience and well-being throughout, right? We were really in the thick of it together, all of us at pretty much every moment throughout. And I think we can all blame the bad weather that we endured for sort of keeping us there, trapping us there. And I think in ways it really served us and brought us closer. And it was just genuinely one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. And Ryan is one of the most phenomenal storytellers of all time. And to be a part of his vision and his world is just the greatest honor. And yeah, it was something, an experience I'll never forget. I have never played a role like this. So, I mean, I guess going back to my first conversation with Ryan, that was before I'd even read the script, hearing from him about this character and about this person and this person's life and her role in this world that he was creating was so, there was no part of it that wasn't compelling to me. Mary has this fierce confidence and power that she knows is there, but is also like simultaneously discovering it in real time and using it in a way that is so smart. I guess too, just really leaning into the part of this role that feels very mature and adult. I've waited a long time to be this moved by a role, but listening to the music, talking with Ruth Carter, our costume designer, that was one of my favorite parts of I'd say pre-production, but there were fittings throughout the duration of the shoot, but going into Ruth's office and that fitting room and seeing the world on the walls was just like the most amazing thing ever. And then of course we got to step on set, onto our incredible set that was just like, again, it looked like one of those pictures in one of those books that I would stare at for so long was just like suddenly in front of me and I was in it. With Ryan, it's like he has so much trust in you that it gives you the opportunity as an actor to like fly. It's so tough to describe, but I think, I don't know, he's just so incredibly special, the way he tells a story, the way he gets everyone involved, the way he cares so much. And one thing I so appreciate about Ryan is that if he has a thought for you, you're the only person that hears that thought. It's so special when you have these moments with Ryan because he's when he's talking to you, you feel like you're the only person in the room. And that's a special thing to feel and a special quality to have, especially when you have a lot of people in the room and a lot of people that want and need your attention and your input. He's so locked in with whatever is in front of him at that moment, and he's just the best. I don't know how he did that. I would have moments on set where I was just like exhausted watching him go through the changes, and you know, we would shoot a scene and then he'd be gone for, you know, they got that changeover time down to, you know, pretty short, but it's tough to sort of break up momentum like that, but his stamina is incredible, and his ability to maintain consistency just blew my mind, and seeing the final product too. I could feel, of course, on the day when he would go from stack to smoke, the difference in his performance. But when you watch it, it is just like, it will blow you away. It's so, again, it was not easy for anyone. And so I can only simply imagine what that must have been like for him truly, because you never would have known it was anything other than wonderful and fun and great from his perspective. He is so so talented and did such a phenomenal job. And he is somebody too that as a scene partner is so generous and cares so much about the other actors, and to be one of those other actors and to feel cared for and heard by your scene partner is also a rare thing and a very special thing, and something I do not take for granted.
It's been the most fun and the most fulfilling experience work-wise. Because of the writing, because of the character and cast, and largely because of Ryan. I have no hesitation with saying this has been easily the best, most fun, most fulfilling job that I've been fortunate enough to do. It's rooted in history, and it's rooted in something factual and something I find personally very, very interesting anyway. So to create this character that is kind of supernatural yet also very natural too, or very, there's a realism to that also. It's not so outlandish that it's beyond all conception. It was just wildly thrilling, and I guess with him being around for as long as he says he's been around for, there comes a certain complexity with his character, with his personality, with what he's capable of, how he's able to read people, and you know, he's not your average. He's not human. He's got a different take on mortality. So there was all of that. There was all of that kind of wiggle room to have a lot of fun with, and Ryan was also finite and also very clued up. And these are the types of conversations that I could have with him, and felt much joy in discussing that kind of stuff with him. I feel like this film, this script, it does merge genres. So it's really not your average. The first thing I said to Ryan in our meeting on Zoom, having read the script for the first time, I asked him, who's the audience? And he just says, I want everybody to go and see this. I mean, obviously, there's, you know, there is a limit to that, but he says everybody, and I feel like I know what he means now. You know, youngsters can go and watch this film and discover stuff about a genre of music that perhaps didn't know too well. Your older ones can go and see this wonderful depiction on how blues music was formed and how people congregated. And I really do think it's across the board. I think the audience for this potentially could be very vast. That's one thing he said to me on the initial meeting, and now I know what he means. By the time I was on set, I'd been partnered up with these amazing experts. I just felt ready to go, and Ryan just laid it out in such a way where we felt welcome. He inspires confidence. And yeah, just felt ready to rock every time, but also available. Anytime he had a question or, you know, he's really wonderful with his cast, and you can really get into it with him. So yeah, nothing but good things to say about Mr. Coogler. I thought it was amazing to watch Michael B do his work, portraying two brothers in real time at once. I've been really blown away with him and his professionalism, his openness, you know, very collaborative, which I love. Young Miles, can we talk about Young Miles? Just, I'm blown away by that kid. Yeah, I mean, talk about all-rounder, but just knuckles down, ready to get his hands dirty. He's up for rolling his sleeves up and knuckling down. I really buzzed off working with him. He's my kind of actor.
This film was just an incredible opportunity for me. And more than anything, I found it was an opportunity for me to write a love letter to cinema, to all of the things that I love about going to the movies and watching movies with an audience. That feeling that drove me to want to become a filmmaker, drove me to film school, drove me to want to learn how to create these things. And I'm incorporating all of the lessons that I've learned, over the last 4 films that I've written and directed, maximizing all the relationships that I formed with all of the folks that helped me make those movies. And I'm kind of just like, cashing it in, you know what I'm saying, on this picture. And at the same time, it's the first film that I've made, like, since I think I've become like a fully formed person, you know what I mean? And kind of know who I am, you know what I mean? For the first time, I'm a dad, a husband, a business owner. And I've been through some things, and it's given me some perspective, but also I'm still curious about life, and those questions are put into this film. So yeah, I think in many ways it's the most important movie I've ever made, and it's straight from me to audiences. Oftentimes I'll write scripts with actors in mind. I still did that on this one, but I also kind of had to take a step back and try to put the actor away as much as I could, and just imagine the characters, And I think with this film, that process kind of paid off, because these performances from Michael are so much different from anything else that I've seen him do before. I knew that we would need actors that had experience in some of these smaller roles, but also the film would need actors that would be discoveries in some of these roles specifically too. And once the screenplay was written, I kind of knew if there was an actor out there who could do the parts. I kind of had them in mind. And this was one of those movies where, for the most part, everybody said yes. I always wanted to work with Delroy. I always wanted to work with Omar. I've been wanting to work with Wumi since I saw her. And then Jack O'Connell, man, I always loved, man. It's like his performance in Starred Up, it just blew me away. I always wanted to work with him since I saw that film. And then the other folks, man, that we found through the auditioning process, man, it was just fantastic. I mean, even a lot of the local actors in Louisiana were just incredible, man. And it wouldn't have worked without these performances. Finding our Sammy in the film was it was a thing that would make or break the film. You had to believe that this kid had the talent, that would attract this type of attention that it does in the film, both in the community and supernaturally. We knew that was always gonna be the hardest thing. So that was the thing we got started on first. We were looking for Sammy before we had a script, and we looked everywhere, man. We read incredible actors and musicians from all over the world, man. We get tapes from Paris, we get tapes from the continent. It was insane. Miles sent in a tape from New York, and he was like in his basement or something with the lights out. You know what I mean? He didn't know what he didn't, you got a little bit of a glimpse of him, and he just heard that voice, and it was instantly like, you never forgot it. When he got time to read his pages, he was far and away the best of all of the folks, even though he had never acted before. You could tell he was green, but it was green in a way that, like, hey man, maybe we could do something. So then we brought him out for a chemistry read with Mike B. And we brought Ludwig, our composer and executive producer on the film. We brought him to the chemistry read as well, so Ludwig could kind of fill him out in terms of his musical abilities and his ability with the guitar. He had to learn the guitar for the movie because he's a pianist. And yeah, man, he just continued to impress us. He's very involved in the process early on. With this one, because it's about a guitar player, and that's Ludwig's life. That's his, that's the instrument that he first learned how to play. His father was a guitar teacher. For this one, it was like, all right, we got to step it up to another level on this. I need his involvement early and often. He's one of the founders of our company at Proximity, and so we had that working relationship there. So in this one, it's the first movie that he's an executive producer on. And while I was finishing up the script, I was able to take a trip out to Mississippi for the first time and go on the blues trail. And Ludwig was right there with me every step of the way. So my first time in Mississippi, I was there with him and with his dad, who was his guitar teacher coming up. And his dad idolizes these blues musicians that came up at the time of the film is set. And his dad is from Sweden, from Linköping, Sweden. You know what I mean? So like just being there on cotton plantations and seeing this Swedish man in his 70s, move to tears because he's in the place where the musicians that he idolized, from thousands of miles away, their music changed his life, changed the trajectory of it. It was mind-boggling for me. You know what I mean? It kind of like made it all the more important to put the lens on these characters at this time. When I thought about it, and I was like, oh yeah, it has to be. Like these characters are larger than life, but also if a big sell of this movie is, we're gonna show, a generation of Americans that are often overlooked, that people feel uncomfortable talking about, people don't wanna spend time with, but to me, these people from this era are giants. You know what I mean? Like they towering figures. Musicians aside, just the people that endured, that time to help us get to where we are now. So I was like, oh, it has to be shot in the most epic format. That's such a cinematic statement. When we got into it, man, we realized that just that decision, it put us on the forefront of a lot of things. It put us in rarefied air. And also, man, I love going to see movies in IMAX. And the film has such a specific look. And it's really because like nobody's really made a movie with a cast like this, in a location like this with this format, and Autumn and Hannah and Ruth, they have very specific ways of attacking their craft. It's just made for something extremely massive in scale, but also extremely bespoke and unique, which is, what I'm all about as a maker of things, but also as a consumer,
I feel like I learned so much from Annie. I feel like she changed me so profoundly on like a vibrational level. But I feel like where we're very similar, we're both mothers, right? And I feel like the capacity of love that, that kind of is birthed through birthing. I really, I think before I had my child, I don't know if I would have completely understood her all-encompassing love and understanding of Smoke and his grief and how he copes and how he moves and how he disappeared and he's come back. The way she just accepts him so fully and wholly as who he is and where he's at and understands his grief. I feel like I understood her through our shared experience of being a mom. I really found this whole experience of working with Michael quite, it was quite magical actually, because when he was Smoke, our relationship on the set as Wumi and Michael was so easy, and it was so like, our shorthand was so in sync, and we really pushed each other, we really challenged each other. Every day we say, tomorrow we're gonna come harder, better, faster, and you don't be afraid. And when he was Stack, still the same lovely Michael, but there was just a distance. And I wouldn't share with him in the same way as I shared with him when he was in his Smoke costume. His energy was so different. I could tell with my back turned who was walking onto the set, if it was Stack or Smoke, every day, no question. I didn't even have to look. It was so obvious to me. He really was, it was so nuanced and fine-tuned. The vibration was so clear. I could tell without a shadow of a doubt if it was Stack or Smoke. From the first meeting with Ryan, I knew that he was a deep thinker and a high thinker. He vibrates with intention and respect and honor for for honesty, I want to say it's for the ancestors. Honestly, that's just, he never just feels like he's talking about one thing. It always feels like there's meaning. There's always just the ancestors talking through him. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel that. And there's just this reverence for our people and who we are and what and where we're from and who we're from and our strength and our weaknesses. And so like I said, working with him, it feels like magical. I feel quite emotional most days when I come onto set, because I know that there's meaning and there's growth and there's a challenge, and we're gonna meet it. And that's what it feels like working with Ryan. Ryan is very respectful of everyone's process, everyone's instincts, everyone's talents and strengths, and our weaknesses. He will quietly give you your notes and talk things through with you on the stage. But we also had the luxury of 2 weeks of rehearsals where we just got to sit and talk and get to know each other and share and create a really safe space. Because especially, well, I'm not saying especially, but Smoke and Annie have such trauma and heartbreak, and just to kind of find a space where these two strangers, Wumi and Michael, can share and create and feel safe and feel like safe enough to go to all the depths and be wild in it too. He's a very special director because he's not just the camera, he's not just the script, he's not just the actors, and he's all of those things and everyone else. He's so concerned of everyone and of the whole crew. And so it feels really like I've learned so much by being in his charge. He's a gentle warrior of a leader. Like he really is quite exceptional. I forget that it's a vampire story because there's so much love and there's so much heart. Every single character has something that they are burdened with and working through and being loved through. It's about finding your voice, finding your purpose. It's about your connection to who you came from and who is coming forth. It's about family. It's about music. It's about the vibrations that continue to move through us, through the generations. And it's about a cultural appropriation. It's about saving and keeping things pure and your focus and your purpose pure. A real challenge of stamina and keeping the momentum up, but you're shooting these scenes for weeks, and it's you want to make sure that you come into each scene with the exact right energy of from what happened before and where you're going. And it was quite difficult to really pitch it like exactly. And sometimes we're not shooting in order, right? So I feel like those scenes were, you know, I think we just really tried to lock in and just be like, play the scene, play our motivation, play our obstacles, play our wants and needs. Because that's all we can really do, because you also don't know how it's going to change in the edit too, you know. But it was being in that space with those people, again, I keep saying magical, because it really was. Like, we formed these bonds and it was like family. And every day, like, you know, as the Duke, you know, when it just being in that Duke joint, like every day it was like family, it was joy, it was puzzle solving, it was games, it was everything. Like it was community. Watching Ruth work was like alchemy. You'd go in and you'd try something, and then she would add and take away, add and take away. We discuss, how does it feel? And, you know, we had a costume that felt kind of right. And then I came back like a day later and she had dyed it. And it was like, oh, here she is. I find it very difficult wearing things that I wouldn't wear. But the way that Ruth does it, I'm like, oh, I forget about me. And I'm just like, oh yeah, this is Annie.
You know, working with Ryan has been, you know, incredible. I think he's a brilliant, you know, director. I feel like it's one thing to have an idea, and it's another thing to be able to execute it. And I just feel like, you know, once I got here and I got to see the set and you know, the cars, the locations, the different places, to see all of that stuff come together, it was, you know, really exciting to see. You know, he always looks out for everybody on set. You know, he makes sure everybody's good, and he really is a coach. You know, he'll get all of us in a circle and he'll, you know, give us the plan, and he'll tell us what the goal is that we all need to accomplish together, but then he'll also take everybody aside and, you know, tell us what we need to hear individually so that we can give the best performance. I've been singing, you know, since I was a kid, and when I turned 16, I got a call to sing background for her. And, you know, we opened up for Coldplay. We were on tour for the last 3 years, and I get a call from her one day, and she tells me, you know, I think there's this role that I think you should audition for. I sent her my audition video. A few weeks after that, I got a call back. I went to go do a chemistry read where I got to meet him and, you know, Ludwig and all these different people. And I felt like it went well. Then fast forward a few weeks later, I'm at home, I'm waiting for the news, like what's happening? Did I get it? Did I not? And I think I was at the mall at the time or somewhere, and I get a call from a number from Oakland, California, and I pick it up. And I'm like, hello? He's like, Miles Caton? I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is Ryan. I was like, what's up, Ryan? He's like, bro, you got the role. I was like, what? He said, yeah, you got the role. And I was in complete shock. And, you know, he said, you know, it's a lot of work we got to do, but, you know, I believe in you. I think you're going to be great. And after that, I got straight to work. Coming off a tour, I had picked up the guitar, you know, just randomly just started messing around with it. Little did I know that this opportunity would be right around the corner. And I started practicing, you know, once I got the call, and I just started, you know, going every day practicing. It was definitely a challenge, but I had some help by this guy. His name is Randy Bolin. He's a great guitarist, and, you know, we went to the studio every day. He taught me like the fundamentals of, you know, the guitar, and taught me how to use the slide and everything like that. And so I'm just proud of what I was able to accomplish in that short amount of time. Yeah, working with Michael has been, you know, incredible. I think he's a great actor, and the way he was able to, you know, create the characters individually and make them different really made it easy for me to
establish my relationship with each of them. But working with him as Smoke, he comes in, he's way more serious. You know, it's no joking, it's no, you know, no type of laughter. He's really serious when he walks into that character, and it kind of sets the tone for the whole scene. And then for Stack, it's like, it's light, you know, you can be happy, we can laugh, we can joke, we can really have a good time.
In a word, it's been phenomenal, in as much as Ryan is incredibly respectful of actors and the acting process. Therefore, he listens. Opinions, points of view that people have, he listens to everybody. And certainly, he has listened to me throughout this process in a way that is extremely respectful and feels collaborative. He's worked with me to, wherever we can, flesh out some of those moments to ensure that my character, who is very, very dynamically introduced in the first half, that I don't get lost in the second half. So it's been very collaborative, deeply respectful, and I've had a very, very good time from that standpoint. It's a terrific thing when one gets the feeling that we're all moving in the same direction. And I feel that. Look, obviously, actors have different ways of working, but you know, the analogy that I always make, I always use a train, and we're all on. It feels to me that we're all on the train, going in the same direction, and that's rewarding, and that feels good. That feels really good. It's a great cast, and I have to say also a really good crew, which is a reflection of Ryan, as far as I'm concerned. You know, film is hierarchical, and it all kind of filters down from the director, and because he's very collaborative, and he's intent on presenting. He's intent, like as we all are, intent on getting things as right as they can be. And there's a lot of support in that regard for him, for the story. Great cast. The opportunity to work with a very, very exciting filmmaker, you know, who's in my opinion, is in a very, very unique position. In as much as we all know, his films have been both commercially and critically acclaimed. And as a young man, you know, Ryan is not yet 40. As a young man, to be in that position is very, very particular and very special. But I responded to the opportunity to work with him because of what I saw in the script and what I believe his ethos as a filmmaker, as a storyteller is, which I find attractive. I think it's very healthy for the entertainment industry, and I wanted to be a part of being on this particular journey with him. The notion of playing a musician and the notion of investigating this human being, Delta Slim, who carries with him, I have a particular history, and certain things have happened in that history. And as a result, again, I don't want to give too much away, but I am navigating some events that have happened to me in my past that are very much having an impact on my present. And that interested me as an actor. Every character that one portrays on some level is a reflection of oneself. Now, let me be clear what I mean by that. If one, for instance, is playing an axe murderer, it doesn't mean that one goes out and starts killing people or is connecting with one's potential to be an axe murderer. No, but certainly one is investigating one's own humanity and discovering, okay, what is it that I have inside of myself that connects to this person that I'm playing, this character. And so I wanted to, so I am giving myself over to this man, Delta Slim, and finding, okay, where are the parallels? Where are the areas of particular resonance and commonality between myself and Delta? And that process has involved, as it always does in whatever work that one is doing, an investigation of self and then finding the connection between me and Delta. So I just wanted to dive in and find out what those areas were and are and explore those things in service of the narrative.
Overall, my experience has just been absolutely wonderful, I have to say. This has been, I keep telling my mom, like, this has like been a gift. This project really has been a gift in so many ways, from all the cast and crew and getting to work with Ryan and the producers and to the character and what my character's evolution and arc and what she gets to do. So I'm also sitting in a bit of joy as well. And then like kind of sadness because that's about to end. So there's a lot of emotions happening at the moment. Very early on, Ryan and I were just talking about her character and his inspiration for writing her and what it means for her to not only be in this juke joint, but to stay, especially when everything goes down. And really just talking about how for her, this is probably the first time in her life that she feels like she has any kind of agency to fight for something. She is a little mysterious, but boy, does she come alive when she's in her element. The gift here has been watching and experiencing the movie evolve as we film, and things that we may have had questions to prior to it really getting fleshed out and evolving, and watching certain moments really become earned, and also like allowing myself to be lost in the story. I think that's actually really key, because my character, when everything goes down, right, it is fantastical. Everything that's happening is outside of the norm. She can't grasp all of what's happening. It is otherworldly. And so I really just leaned into all of that, and let the movie spin me as I hope it'll spin audience members, to get lost in this environment that we don't know. Again, this is a male director that has written a lot of female characters that don't feel like sidelined subparts, right? That all have a story, an arc, a reason for being there outside of checking a box or satisfying a male gaze. They all feel like, not just the women, but every character feels like people we know, and that's because, and I'm sure he'll speak to it, that they are people, members of his family, right? And you feel that. Perline's performance was a living, breathing thing. When I first talked with Ryan and I asked him what did he envision for it, he was like, well, what do you envision for it? And I was, oh, okay. And I hadn't yet heard the song that Ludwig was working on. And the first day I sat down and I got to hear it, I heard the opening scream. I was like, wait, is that me? Am I supposed to be doing that? Wait, go back, say that again. And it was just the first 90 seconds. That's all he had at the time. And I was like, okay, this is different than the song I had to put myself on tape for. All right, let's get to work. And throughout that journey of getting up the courage to be able to sing that, then later in the process, I find out, as Ludwig finds out for himself, that he wants it to be a full 5-minute song with scoring that would last multiple scenes. And I said, okay, so what does that mean? What does that sound like? And what does that look like? And then finally getting to hear the rest of the reference track. I was blown away. And then I immediately knew what I wanted that to look like.
Beautiful, clever, so unique, revolutionary filmmaking in so many ways that I've not seen in other films, but I think that's just every great filmmaker. And really just going back to what I said earlier is just how genuine he is and how he always looks out for the actor, and he's always checking up on us and making sure that we feel safe and most comfortable so that we can do our best work. I think it's really special that he told me that it was his dream project, and because we all love Ryan, we feel all extremely honored to be a part of this project because we respect him and love his work so much. So I mean, this really, really is a reflection of how we feel about being able to work with him. I love that he is so collaborative, and I feel like the film has grown tremendously from day one since we started, because he sees his writing being brought to life by the actors, and the more he learns about the actors, the more he's open to finding ways to complement both how the actor brings his dialogue to life and how he can improve that based on just how he learns more about us throughout the journey. And in that same breath, we also pay so much attention to how Ryan reacts with every take. We're constantly I am always watching him whenever he watches playback, and I just love that he's so open to us playing with different choices, and I love that he cannot hold himself from giggling sometimes when we have great funny takes and he cries from laughing so hard. Everyone is so nice and so sweet and so funny and incredibly talented. And at the table reading, I was so intimidated because by everyone's talents and their accent abilities. And some of us are singers, and I am blown away by Miles. I cannot believe the voice that he has, as well as the fact that he learned how to play the guitar only a few months ago, and that this is his first film, and he is so incredibly talented when he's on screen, and everyone is so compelling. I'm just so lucky to be a part of this. The fact that it's original, it's obviously beautifully performed with, I know that sounds terribly cliche, but with such soul by such talented people. It really, and then seeing it and feeling it live, every time Miles sings in front of us, we all get goosebumps and we all look at each other. And the first time I heard him sing, I was emotional.
at the music meeting. And that's why I'm now a fan.
Ryan is fantastic. Ryan and his wife are total goals, couple goals, life goals. They're making this film together. It's a collaborative process. The great thing about Ryan is he's full of energy and he's young and he collaborates with you. You're always a part of crafting the character. You're always a part of the story. And he's very, very clear about where you are in the story for each scene, what just happened, what's about to happen, and getting your thoughts and encouraging that. So it's been a great experience in the cast. There's not enough, superlatives to throw around because, man, we stumbled upon a really solid group of people. And I have to give Ryan credit for that. I have to give all the producers, Sev and Rebecca and Zinzi, all of them credit for that because this is a great group. And it's a great group because it's a really great mix. It's like a melange of veterans and new people, thespians and singers and pop stars and movie stars and, all sorts of different walks of life in real life getting represented on screen as different walks of life to tell this wild, crazy tale of a story. I mean, the story is completely berserk. Miles is gonna break out. I think that Jayme Lawson's fantastic in it. Wunmi is great, Jack is great. You know what you're gonna get with Mike, and he even gives you a different wrinkle on this one because this isn't how the audience has ever seen him before. And so I'm pumped up. I'm happy to be a part of this one. I'm happy to have this one under my belt. I got a call from my agent that said Ryan wanted to meet me. And so I went and he said, would you mind reading? I was like, all right, if you need me to. And it'd been a minute since I had auditioned, and I went and auditioned because I really admired him, and I'm happy that I did that because he's just, man, he's a real cinephile, and in that you can't sneak anything by him. As far as we sit on set most of the time, and the first AD has to grab him because he and I are talking movies, talking old movies, talking new movies. And so that's how it came my way, and it was super top secret. And so I read the sides, and then we went in, we had a meeting, spoke about it, and then they offered me the role, and I read the script, and I was like, yeah, sign me up. Well, I think there's a familiarity between Ryan and Michael now that makes their collaboration easier because the communication is there and it's set. I don't know what it was like when they were first starting together, but you can tell now if you're on set that these guys are friends and that there's a shorthand and they know each other's family, etc. I think that puts at ease both the leader as far as the director and the star as far as Michael. And with Michael playing twins, it's not easy. They have brand new technology in this, so there's stuff that we're doing. It's a difficult film to make. There's stuff that's happening here that you've never seen before in a movie. That's crazy. That's awesome to be a part of. And I think that with these guys, they're challenging themselves, and they have a shorthand because of their familiarity that then in turn breeds an ease to communicate questions and solve problems and spark creativity and ideas because they're in an environment where they're comfortable with each other and they trust each other. It's such a big deal. Mike's doing a great job of playing the twins because I think that when you see the film, you'll understand clearly that they're two distinct characters. And he's putting in a lot of work to make sure that they're distinct characters, that their line isn't blurred. Besides the fact of how all twins that you ever meet have a blurred line because they're so connected, genomically. Character-wise, he's doing a wonderful job. And when you see how he plays both of them, it makes your character understand how to deal with each of them. Because one is more serious, one is more visceral, one is more jokey, one is more of a gambler, one's more of an intellectual. It's a very interesting dynamic that Ryan has written and that Mike is performing. If you came to the actual location where we're shooting the lumber mill, the juke, it's unreal. They have a bunch of cars from the 30s. It's the parking lot is a sand lot. It sits on a swamp. And it's very easy to then, in the costumes and with everyone else's costumes, and it makes it a lot easier to slip into what you imagine it's like, and the research that I did, what it was like at the time. And then when you see an alligator walk by that looks prehistoric, you feel like you're around tens of thousands of years ago, let alone 100 years ago. Just like any of the other pieces that I've seen his name on, it's a very clever film. It presents as one thing, but actually when you will experience the movie, because I don't think this is something you just watch. I think it's just going to be an experience for the audience. This is a movie that's made for the cinema. It's made for the movie theater. It's made for the IMAX. It's made for a 70-foot screen, 100-foot screen. And I think that it's going to be entertaining, but also thought-provoking. And that's what I love about him and his voice as a filmmaker. I think that that's something the audience, whether they know it or not, is something that they're attracted to. I hope people come with an open mind and ready to experience all aspects of cinema in this movie, because there's funny, there's dramatic, there's horror, there's passion, there's sexuality, there's monsters. This film can titillate your senses in a myriad of ways, and you just got to show up and give it a shot.
Bert is husband of Joan, and the film kind of starts with Bert and Joan talking about their desire to have a child and inability to do so, and then an injured man shows up and changes it all. We've been learning a lot about Bert. Obviously, at the time that this movie takes place, race relations were in a state of, in a horrific state. And it was really important to Ryan to make Bert and Joan these really round characters where they weren't specifically villains, or, he really wanted to approach them with ease and allowing them to be complete human beings rather than what I think a lot of films would do, which is kind of make them cut and dry villain. It's been such an honor to be Bert in this experience. I had a deep respect for Ryan coming into this process, having watched his films, and really sensed sort of an infiltrative instinct in his filmmaking. He's often confronting anti-colonialist themes and really coming into the massive studio film from a sort of anti-capitalist way. And I find that really inspiring. I think watching him take on this film, which is a giant ensemble cast, you have two of the main characters being portrayed by one actor, and seeing how deeply he knows his characters and refusing to portray any of them as simple archetypes, and just wanting to bring the audience directly into the struggles and the joy of every character, whether they're, on the right or the wrong side of history, has been completely inspiring. And his ability to do so and his capacity to take that kind of thing on is unrivaled. Like, I just don't know anybody else who's making the kind of work he is. I think there's been multiple times on this set where crew members or cast members just kind of look at each other and go, I don't think anything like this is really getting made. I think Ryan's ability to take on this project is unrivaled. I think that the way in which he's approached it is profoundly ambitious, but I think he's always thinking about the group and the way in which to tell a myriad of stories in the most honest and authentic way as possible. It's never about elevating one character over another. And I'm learning a lot. It's really an honor to be a part of it. Through my research for this role and through the recording we've done, I've fallen in love with the fact that the blues is never about singing a sad song. It's actually about singing a joyous song about going through adversity. And you never listen to a blues song and feel morose. You know what I mean? It really picks you up out of where you are and And I think what Ryan's doing with this script is all about that, is all about manifesting more for yourself than the expectations and the limitations around you would have you believe. I think to start, you have to talk a bit about what Mike B is doing on this movie. Like, I don't know how it's gonna feel in the theater to see such varied performances from one actor happening simultaneously. There's times where we're doing scenes where I just can't believe his range and his ability to make these characters whole. There's no part of it that lands in the middle of the Venn diagram. These characters are really distinct, and he's doing it back and forth like you wouldn't believe. That alone could carry a film. And yet, instead, there's a cast of a dozen other characters that are bringing these in-depth arcs through the film. And I think that comes from Ryan's ambition and belief in an audience and not catering to them and not coddling his audience, but allowing each character to be believable and full. Knowing that you have this sort of fearless leader in Ryan that believes in his vision and believes this is a story that has to be told, of course grounds you and allows you to feel that if I can do even just the smallest bit to contribute to delivering that vision as, you know, a white Canadian guy coming in, then I'd lay down on tracks for that guy. I'd do anything for him to help him get the creative story told. But I think that's been the struggle, if anything, is just looking at the context of where we are and understanding that that's an ongoing battle that is not even close to resolved. I just have so much respect for everybody and the way they're taking it on, but it's definitely a huge story to tell and a weighty one. And I think me, just like any other member of the crew, is just interested in doing so in the most honest way possible. But it's a hard story to tell.
My first one-on-one meeting with Ryan was maybe like a week or so after the first script read. The first time I met him was at the script read. It's kind of been, we kind of hit the ground running from the word go. But when we talked about the character, we were talking about kind of like the integral nature of Asian grocery stores in Black neighborhoods. And Ryan approached it from a very friendly, like best friend, like, you know, friends who like grew up in the same neighborhood kind of thing. And like Ryan's from the Bay and I'm from the Bay as well. So like we kind of have a similar experience where it's just like, it's like such a huge melting pot, and like the Asian population in the Bay is so huge, you know? So like Black people, Asians, Latinos, we all kind of like grow up close to each other, and there's not a lot of, the way that I remember growing up, there wasn't a lot of like segregation based on race from that perspective. And so like when he was talking about like the friendship between Bo and the twins, there was already like a lot of like empathy and like reference points for me from that conversation. But the thing that was really important for me was like getting in like just that little historical kernel of like Asian people moving into Black neighborhoods and like owning convenience stores and things like that. Because while that is an opportunity for community, sometimes it is a prickly relationship. And so I wanted for there to be as much complexity and like undertones of conflict as much as there would be that kind of parallel. But you know, he approached it with love, as Ryan always does, and I approached it with like bitterness and like darkness and complexity. That's kind of like my whole bag anyway. I think the opportunity that this movie provides is for us to be in the company of like deep family and roots. And I think that's beautiful with what, you know, the aspirations of the project and kind of the genesis of this project, which was a deep dive into Zinzi and Ryan's family, which goes back to Mississippi and the Delta Chinese, you know? That's why we out here. There's so much like mystique and like magic about what it's gonna be and who the people are, and everybody here is about that work. That's really just what it is. And you know, you see some real heavyweights up here, you know. Just getting to watch them work and, you know, seeing how they play. And sometimes my favorite part is rehearsal, you know, right before we go into the take. And you just get to play with people who've been in the game for like 40 years, 50 years, and shoot your shot. And then sometimes you like, you know, you affect them and you're like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm creeping Delroy Lindo out right now, you know. This story is about somebody who wants to be a part of the community, somebody who loves people, you know, not black, not white, not that kind of thing, like people that he came up with. And something that was important for Ryan when he was talking about this was just like, me and the boys, me and Smoke and Stack, we used to get into trouble together. And so just with that little kernel of information, like we grew this character that is not just, you know, content to kind of like be between black and white, just be this kind of like, you know, this kind of like racial barrier or like medium between these two people. Like somebody who is actually, not to pick a side, but actually involved and invested in the people that are around him. His embodiment of the two characters is so distinct that I am talking to two different people when I'm acting with him and I'm relating to him. And he does treat me like two different people would, you know, because his knowledge of the two characters is so absolute. As much as we want to talk about authenticity, you know, I think even one of the directions that Ruth had was just like color-wise was like red, white, and blue, because she wanted to convey the sense that the people in this movie are Americans first, you know, first and foremost. You know, we're all cut from that. For right or wrong, we're all cut from that same cloth. And so the creative license that direction gives me, and the kind of emotional thrust of that inspires me to invest more in a way that's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we got Bo Chow up in here, you know? Which is probably not what it would have been 100 years ago. And that's when I think it's not just you get permission, but that's where I think it's imperative to actually put authenticity aside and allow fiction to create a space where these kinds of imaginative worlds can exist. The blues is in everything. The blues is in everything. You think about the way that like verse, chorus goes. You think about like call and response, chord structure, the chords that we use, ornamentation, guitar solos, the way that, that's also gospel. But like the way that singing kind of has like call and response, and then solo. That's all in the blues. You think about the formation of like rhythm and the beat, like coming into pop music. That's the blues. The blues is I mean, before it was like, yeah, it's the blues. It was like, you know, it's like the purest form of expression, emotional expression through music. And you can just do it. You can just do it with a guitar, you know, and in person singing.
The challenges I felt like I would have to tap into to bring this part to life were reconciling with being like a bad guy, being perceived as a bad guy. I like people to like me, but I think it's important to kind of embrace the uglier, darker sides of ourselves and humanity, you know, because they're real. I love working with Ryan. He's so kind. Sometimes I look at him and I feel like he's like a quarterback on a football team I've never been on. He definitely has that like vibe, like we're a team. We're gonna make this play. Ryan is just an incredible leader. He is just so good-natured and really open to even my craziest ideas, and that's because he's open to his own crazy ideas, and thank God, because they're really fun to execute. I think the movie is just so wild and fun from the script and from the actors I know playing these parts. And I think that it's a wonderful way to make people forget that they're watching something that has a much deeper meaning to it and just fall in love or lust with the world that it's portraying. I mean, the music is so beautiful, and to hear Miles sing is a real gift.